Let's not do that.
Welcome to This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your local experts on all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Listen in as they discuss the current state of the market, the latest trends, and have a little fun while doing it. We do want to say the opinions voiced on this podcast are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individuals.
Are we on? I think we're on.
I don't think so.
No? Oh.
Yeah, where our logos are, we'll switch to us.
Oh, I see us down there, though. I'm so confused. Why is this intro so long?
I have a lot of compliance.
It's always the loan officer's fault.
Yeah, it is. Hey, we're here.
It's always the loan officer's fault.
There's
Your pro tip.
Welcome
Blame the
to
loan
This Week
officer.
in Real Estate with Jonathan
Pro
Harmon.
tip for the day.
Pro tip: blame the loan officer.
We take blame. I've got a story that I'll share with you real quick. I've got a transaction going right now where they were like, hey, well, if this doesn't work out, we can just say the lender can't provide the financing and that gets out on the financing contingency, right? And I was like, no, I'm not going to take the fall for something. We're going to be open.
I mean, you can, but that's called lying.
We're going to be up. No, I was like, I refuse. You can let another lender do this.
No, but I could say that.
You could, but yeah, I told.
So you got to answer the question.
I said,
we do that? Yes.
I said, listen, if we're not going to go into this transaction with full transparency to all parties, then you can gladly work with another lender.
100%.
Because we are not going to go into that where you're just going to use me as the fall guy if something goes awry with this kind of iffy situation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna back that up with something because there have been multiple, I can't even count them at this point, scenarios where my reputation and your reputation, right, and mine and your reputation together combined, our powers combined, we are captain by a house.
Captain buy a house.
Yeah,
I
you
love
like that? Yeah. Where we've won multiple offer situations, or maybe there's something about a transaction that's not super attractive. Maybe it's a home sale contingency. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's a low offer, whatever, right? Maybe it's a really fast close, and it's like, oh, can you guys really do that? And I'm like, Brian, or me. Yeah, I'm not going to put it on paper if it's not possible.
Yeah.
And so anytime that you are less than above board, let's say, you sacrifice your integrity for something like that, you jeopardize
your reputation,
which is your career.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, and I say this all the time, there's nothing, yours is a little bit different, but there's nothing that I do, not a single thing that I do that somebody couldn't do for themselves. Now, should they do it for themselves? Could they do it as well? No.
Sure.
But could they do it? Could you buy a house without an agent? Yes. Can you sell a house without an agent? Yes. So the only thing that I do is make somebody's life easier, and my reputation for doing that is why I'm still in business.
But you do more than make their life easier. I think there's studies that show that working with a realtor will either save you money as a buyer or help you make more money as a seller. And it almost sounds like an oxymoron to say both of those things, but they are both true.
But that ultimately makes your life easier.
Yeah.
You can do it without me.
Yeah,
you really can. And as long as I realize that and recognize that, then I know what my value proposition is.
And you have to deliver. You have to deliver. Yep. And I think that's the hallmark of a good real estate agent, is that they understand that.
Well, and they understand that you're fully replaceable. In fact, you're fully just not necessary to accomplish the end goal.
Yeah.
You're not necessary. To accomplish it well, you are.
Yep.
If you're doing it right.
Yeah, that was a great opening segment. Maybe the best opening segment we've had in the history of this show.
It's pretty big.
Wow.
What? Oh no, we just launched right in it. Hey, what's up?
All right. Well, let's keep this party trucking. Let's roll right on into market movers and headlines.
Market movers. It's a good one today.
All right. So yesterday, the moment that so many people have been waiting for so long was Jerome Powell's last meeting as the Fed chair.
And
he said something that is highly unusual.
Okay.
He is going to stay on as a governor instead of stepping off of the board.
Interesting.
So it's interesting too to hear his reasoning.
Which bank is he governor?
Oh man, I don't know
Which state or
which district.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember either.
But he's staying on, and he says he's staying on because of the pending investigation and the ongoing investigation into the Federal Reserve. He thinks it's important to stay on and kind of carry that fight.
Some skin in the game still.
Yeah, and can be there to answer questions, be there to protect the Federal Reserve from that kind of from his perspective, it is coercion from the Department of Justice to be investigating the Federal Reserve the way that they are. That's his perspective.
So
right?
Real quick, 15 seconds. They're investigating the Federal Reserve for
how much money they're spending on their new building for the renovation of it.
And it was like they projected a certain amount, and then they 50% of that, right, for the cost or something
along those lines. Yeah. And so he's announced that he's staying on, and some people are saying, well, that's an insult to Kevin Warsh, who's likely to be confirmed by the Senate to take his place. And so that's interesting, but that's not necessarily really what moved the market yesterday. So yesterday, if you weren't paying attention or watching the markets, interest rates went up yesterday. And what's interesting is that they went up early in the day. Because the U.S. announced a longer blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. And so the rates were already higher before the Fed meeting minutes were released. Before anybody knew what was said in the Fed meeting, we were already seeing higher interest rates. And then they went a little bit higher after the minutes came out because it was the largest dissent they've had in decades. Normally, they may have some heated discussion, but at the end of the day, they all vote about the same way. And then you have one or maybe two people that will dissent and not agree with the language that's put out. And so yesterday you had three who dissented, and that was kind of a market mover in and of itself. It didn't move the markets as much as you might think it would, but you got to remember they were already pretty elevated from the news coming out of Iran.
Man, I'll tell you what, bud. Number one, I think I probably watched too much TV and probably watched the wrong shows to keep a completely what's the word here, objective look on things. But gosh, I can't help but feel like I'm in the show House of Cards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And somebody's right, multiple people, there's a game happening behind the scenes, or multiple games happening behind the scenes.
A lot of game going on
that we have no clue about.
Yeah.
And the stuff that we talk about right here, the stuff that ultimately trickles down to us peons, is only kind of the proverbial tip of the iceberg.
Well, and the shadow figures and the shadow games, things like that. Yeah, we don't know, and we don't honestly probably need to.
I don't know that I want to.
Yeah, right. So let's talk about what the dissenters were saying, because I think that's important for the context here. So this is from New York Times. Is the Fed's next rate move necessarily a cut? 3 dissenters at today's meeting want to make it explicit that the answer to that question is no. And sounds like the other members might agree, but didn't want to signal too strongly that the hikes are likely. And there's a lot of signaling. This is a quote from Powell. There's a lot of signaling going on when you change guidance like that. But he says the center of the committee is moving towards a more neutral place where rate moves in either direction are possible. And so what's happening is, as the U.S. economy stays strong, what the Federal Reserve is saying is like, hey, look, it could go either way. We don't think a hike's necessarily coming. We don't think a cut is necessarily coming. We're neutral because we have to wait and see how the economy shakes out as we go into the summer, as we go into elevated gas prices for longer, how that affects other areas of consumer spending. Here's a good quote from Powell. And it's talking about how higher gas prices are likely going to force consumers to cut back spending in other areas, and which would be a drag on economic growth and would lead to what? If you have a drag in economic growth, that's going to
should lead to lower rates.
Lower rates, right?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared for the question.
No,
but I was like,
off guard.
I used to teach this. I know the answer to this. Yeah.
So a lagging growth would lead to rate cuts to try to keep the economy moving, but that just hasn't happened yet, and it's not clear exactly when it will. So here's the quote that I liked. It said, "The U.S. economy." This is from Powell. the U.S. economy has just powered through shock after shock. People are still spending.
Yeah, but we really need to shade that a little bit. People are still spending, and how much of that though is on consumer debt, right? And so as we start to look at that, the underlying health of the economy, and especially on a show called This Week in Real Estate, it's actually, we're actually building a time bomb that is it's going to be devastating.
Yeah,
I mean, you know, consumer debt is up more. So, okay, post COVID, right? Consumer debt was at an all-time low since they really started measuring it. And within 6 years, 5 years, whatever, 4.5 years, we're now at one of the highest levels of consumer debt per person than we've ever been.
It's and
this is not mortgage debt. This is consumer debt.
And I wonder how much of that, I mean, obviously the insane hike in inflation led to that.
Sure.
But I wonder how much of that was kind of compounded by, as the economy changes over time, people will slowly change their spending habits. People will slowly change their budgets. But when you go from, when you get, you know, double-digit inflation, seemingly almost overnight, it's hard for the consumer to say, "Whoa, wait, maybe we shouldn't take that summer vacation," because they didn't realize before deposits were non-refundable that how much gas and milk and eggs were going to cost. And so you almost have this kind of like just driving in a car 60 miles an hour, all of a sudden you just run right into a
shock after shock after shock.
And so the consumer debt is because the consumer has not had time to react to those the changing economy with their spending habits. And also employers haven't had time to or haven't wanted to share with higher wages to help, you know, consumers get through these higher prices.
Yeah, but I also,
cost of living.
I think there's more to it even than that. I think all of that is true, but I think at the same time, we also have experienced such rapid volatility and such so many different changes quickly. I mean, you think about this. You go back to 2009, right? 2008. Okay, so that was 18 years ago, right? So in the span of a newly formed adult, right, 18 years. We went from an incredible housing market and robust economy to a crash. And I mean, a full-on crash. And then from there, that crash lasted, 3 years, 4 years, depends on your area, right? And it resurged, right? So from a roller coaster, if you plotted it out on Roller Coaster Tycoon, it was extremely exciting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Extremely exciting for everyone working in the business and buying houses during those times. It was extremely exciting.
Yes. And then you get to the top of that market and it's like, okay, we're going to see this taper off. Nope, just kidding. Here's a pandemic and we go up even further.
Yeah.
And now, and I go back to this whole like slow, soft landing principle or tactic or whatever. And we've never been able to correct, like we're still chasing a correction. And part of the chasing the correction is that also in the 5 years since 2021 to now, we've had just like our bingo card is insane. You know what I mean? And simultaneously we have messaging from all over the place. It's like, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. You know, these cycles only last a year or 2 years or 3 years or whatever. And so the general, like typical educated consumer right now doesn't know who to believe, doesn't know which message is accurate, right? Says, don't worry. Here's what they want to hear. And that is, don't worry, everything's fine. You know, we're going to pull out of this. So they're like, okay, well, it's okay if we add a little bit more consumer debt. You know, maybe we don't need to taper off our lifestyle. No one is saying, no, you need to batten down the hatches.
Yeah.
And so if nobody is actually telling you that and you're hearing messaging, we're going to pull out of this thing. We're going to be in Iran for 2 weeks or whatever. And here we are doubling down on this blockade, right? I don't know, man. Look, and I'm not directing this at any one specific person, but just in general, a leader for the people is lacking. Someone that says, hey, you average dude, this is what you need to do to protect your family. And in the absence of that, we just kind of come up with whatever feels good.
Well, I don't think that I'll dissent a little bit there. I think we know what those things are. You got Dave Ramsey telling people what to do, and
But people don't take Dave Ramsey seriously anymore. Not enough people.
well, and by and large, I think that's probably a good thing. But that being said, you can go back to the tried and true principles. Cash matters, save money, don't live beyond your means. Just those simple, basic financial principles that are so much easier to say than to actually live your life by.
It's uncomfortable.
But I don't think you need a national leader up on a stage telling people to live within their means. It's just something that we should all try to do. It's really hard to. It's with rents where they are,
Sure.
mortgage payments and where they are, home price, like with everything that we've gone through with inflation. It's just not easy. You have to. Where do you make those cuts?
But I think that I think you do need somebody that has a position of power that people trust, whoever it is, and maybe it's a couple of people on different sides of the aisle or whatever, to say, listen, here's where we are right now. We're going to be here for a little bit, so you probably do need to start making some cuts.
So
and I think that
that's-
would make a big
as soon
difference.
as that person says that and people start in mass doing it, that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of a recession.
Okay,
And
maybe
you're,
we need a
and
recession.
you're okay with that because you think that we need that correction. You've been saying that for a few years. I like the idea of that soft landing where, hey, we don't necessarily need a correction. We just need things to kind of catch up.
But it's not going to happen. Meanwhile, national debt is out of control. I mean, there's so many things that if people would just hit the reset button for a second, right, and be uncomfortable, truly uncomfortable for 6 months, a year, right, I think it would solve so many woes. I really do. And it sucks. And I don't want to do it. I don't want to not go on vacation. I don't want to, not eat T-bones or ribeyes once a week or whatever.
It's not. I don't think it's the skipping vacations that are the challenge. I think it's the people who might lose their homes, that are going to lose their livelihoods. You go through that, what you're describing, and going through that correction. Well, that means job losses. That means people getting foreclosed on. That doesn't mean, hey, we're going to be uncomfortable for a few months. It means the rug could get pulled out from families all over the place.
I know, and I get it. And it happened in 09. 08, 09, 10, 11, those 4 years, it happened a lot. I get it. I totally understand it. But we also came out of that at least for a short time, in a better position as a nation. So the leader, we've even had the president saying, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit. Like he said that, right?
Yeah.
With gas prices and whatnot, right? But we're taking down a regime and, whatever, right? Like that's been the talking points at the beginning, right? I think people need to hear that we don't recover. We do not recover. The soft landing thing's not going to work. It's just not. There's not enough time. There's not enough people that have bought into that to make that actually work. It's just not. It's not going to happen. Nobody else is soft landing. And we know this because consumer debt is up.
Yeah.
So while the Fed is saying whatever they're saying with interest rates, the populace is not doing.
Spending is still going on.
And not only is it still going on, it doesn't make any sense. The cost of money, right, is going up, and people
are
taking more of it.
Yeah.
Like the fundamental economic principle that when something is more expensive, use of it gets lower, it's not happening.
That's what inflation is. That's why you have inflation.
And it's not happening. Right? And if it's not happening, then it's either education or there's some other extenuating circumstance, right? And so what is that extenuating circumstance?
I know it. I know the answer. It's the Joneses.
Yeah.
Got to keep up with them, man.
But that's where the education has to come in, and the education has to come from somebody that, and again, maybe it's 2 people, maybe it's 3 people. There's a unified message across channels, right, that says, y'all, we are in trouble. And we are. I mean, if you start to look at some of the fundamentals, we have a lot of problems that nobody's talking about other than like this kind of a conversation. And it seems like it's all theoretical, right? Well, meanwhile, the national debt is like, as a country, we're bankrupt. We just haven't declared it yet.
Yeah.
I mean, look at it.
Who was it that just declared the U.S. government's insolvent? It was that was a big headline a month ago.
I don't know, but
I'm gonna look that up real quick.
Yeah.
Keep talking while I'm on my phone.
but we are as a nation. So they're not stopping spending. And if they're not stopping spending, then I don't have to either, right? I deserve to keep, T-bone steaks on my table, And so, but I can't afford to do it. Not really. Not if in the meantime my consumer spending is up higher than it ever has been. And it's at a rate of, I don't even know, what is a credit card rate right now? 12%, 15%?
I bet it's closer to 20.
Yeah. So it's crazy. We're financing, just like the federal government is, we're financing a lifestyle that is the same as it was before inflation went bananas. We can't do it. And nobody is saying that. Nobody at the leadership level is saying, yo, we got to stop. So
the insolvent thing was it was an op-ed. So it wasn't like
a country or something.
It was an op-ed that where a couple of people for Fortune magazine said that they, in their opinion, the U.S. government's insolvent. And the fact check on it is, no, that's a conclusion of an opinion piece. Inside of the Treasury report showing the government's liabilities outweigh its assets, but that's been the case for decades. And unlike an insolvent business, the government can levy taxes.
Right.
So there you go.
Which does what to the consumer?
There you go. Well,
so we got problems, dude. And, we can talk about buying houses, but the reality is your average person on the street right now, though they might want to buy a house, maybe they shouldn't.
Man, this conversation went a whole nother way.
It did.
I've had some conversations with some folks where I do think the right thing for them to do is not buy right now, but that's usually because I don't think that they're ready for that level of responsibility. And I never discourage somebody from applying, and I never discourage somebody from owning a home. But I will always say, hey, look, my role here is to advise you through this transaction. Have you thought about this?
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about these things? And if the questions that I'm asking get them to think that, then I feel like as an advisor, I've done a good job. I'm never going to say to someone that you shouldn't buy a house.
Oh, I have.
It's that I legally can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a compliance thing for me, for one thing. For another thing, I want people to make their own decisions. I will ask the questions I feel like they should be considering, and ultimately, it's up to them to answer those.
And I do the same thing. I'll lead them through a line of questioning, but we get to the end, and it's always funny because you see that moment, right?
Here's a guy that's 100% commission, only makes money when he sells houses, and he's telling me not to buy a house. And they're like, wow.
Yeah, and I'll say, so what do you think? And they're like, well, we probably need to wait just a little bit. And I'll be like, yeah.
And sometimes it could be like, hey, you will be in a much better position in 6 months. And, you're telling me that you're going to graduate, or she's going to graduate, and she can get a better job. And all of a sudden now your purchasing power, you'll be able to get the house that you really want instead of having to stair step this thing. So there's lots of different reasons why it might make sense for someone to wait, might make sense for someone else to go ahead and jump in now. And those are the fun conversations that we get to have in our profession.
It is. I will tell you, and if you're watching, listening, one of the things that's always that I always is a red flag for me that I might have to tell someone not to buy a house is when we start and I say, why do you want to buy a house? And they say, well, because we're renting and I want to stop throwing money away. Like if that's your only reason, then we need to talk about it. I want you to hear me very plainly. Rent is not throwing money away. Okay. You have a fundamental basic human need, right? Which is shelter. Okay. And what you get for your payment in a rental situation is shelter. Now, do you need to rent a 3,000 square foot, 5-bedroom, 3-car garage house? No, but you have to have shelter as humans. We don't live in caves. It just is what it is, right? There's not land for you to build a thatched roof. You have to have shelter. Okay.
Go make a teepee.
Exactly. Yeah. So rent is not throwing money away. The other thing about rent is you have so much less responsibility through rent, and you're not tied to that space. So here's where rent makes a lot of sense. One, you're not ready to buy. Okay. There you go. That's easy. Okay. Two, you're not necessarily tied to the location that you're looking at buying a house. You might get a job transfer. You work for a company that moves people around. You don't have a big boy job yet, right? Whatever, right? So you have these reasons where it makes sense to be temporary somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you got to be honest about that. And here's the thing. If your outlook on owning a home is 2 years in this market, I'm going to put some objections in front of you.
Yeah, that's good advice. In 2020, prior to 2021, really, and the latter part of 2020, you couldn't expect to live in a home for less than 3 years and be able to sell it with enough money and enough equity to pay out your real estate commissions. And so if you were buying a house, and I think we're back to this point, if you're buying a house now without the expectation that you're going to live in it or own it for at least 3 years, then you probably don't need to buy that house.
That's right.
Because you are probably going to come out upside down with your equity position.
You could.
Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that you won't be able to sell it for what you own it, because we don't know in your situation how much money you're putting down.
Right.
But just from a standpoint of you add up the costs of the house, the cost of the closing costs, and the cost of the real estate commissions, and you subtract it for what you're going to sell it for, and that's you're going to likely not make money on that.
So we have to have those conversations, and we have to have a game plan. Now, there's all kinds of exceptions, and when we sit down and have that conversation, we'll go through those exceptions. I'm not going to live there for 2 years, but I plan to never sell the house. That's a different situation.
Yeah, I noticed I chose my word carefully. You're not going to own the home for 3 years.
That's right. It's totally different. So anyway, the point is this: sometimes renting does make sense, and more often than people want to admit. And look, I'm looking at you right now. If you think I'm looking at you, I am. If your mama or your daddy has said, you're just throwing your money away, and they bought a house, their first house 30 years ago, listen, the fundamental things have not changed, okay? But the circumstances that they apply to have. And so because of that, we need to adjust common knowledge or old wisdom and apply it to your particular circumstance right now in the market right now. So I'm not saying your parents are wrong. I'm saying that the market is totally different than it was 30 or 40 years ago when they bought their first home.
Good stuff. Enjoyed that conversation. I think it's time for us to go over to This Is Real.
Oh, please, let's lighten this up.
Is that a Beastie Boys album cover?
I was going to say Daft Punk, but yeah, maybe. What? It's a shower head, right?
It's got to be.
It looks like a wine glass, sort of.
Yeah. Like a broken stem. It's just kind of limp, hanging down.
And it's not even like special.
Like, yeah. If you're going through a home and you're taking pictures of all the features of the home, like, why wouldn't you just take one picture of the shower that's like
the actual
shower, not just the shower head, especially with your reflection in the chrome?
Bless their hearts. I don't even know what else to say.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Also, that shower head seems like it's dangerously close to the ceiling. I could see some like fungal issues brewing there,
Potentially. If they'd zoom out a little bit, we could see if there's a fan right above it. That would make a difference.
That would be helpful.
Yeah.
That would be helpful to know. Yeah.
That's
fantastic.
That's lovely. Thank you.
All right. I think we're going to go over to pro tip now, right?
We had one. What was it?
What was your pro tip? It was yours.
Oh, it was Missy's.
Yeah.
Missy's pro tip. That's right. I was like, what was it?
Shout out to Missy, who filled in for me last week. I was not on vacation, but I was playing in the Bill Carey MTAR golf tournament.
Yeah. Did you win?
Most fun.
You won the most fun?
I won the most fun.
Was that an actual award?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm declaring it. I'm declaring it. I know I go on a lot of trips. And next week I'll be out of town because I'll be graduating from Tennessee Mortgage Bankers Association's Future Leaders Program. So I'll no longer have that program as an excuse for missing the show.
Why are you a future leader? Aren't you leading now?
I've got a long way to go, man. I'm a young Padawan in the realm of mortgage leadership.
Grasshopper. All right, here we go. So the pro tip is to my real estate agents that are listing agents. And so listing agents, please prepare your sellers for a couple of things. And when it comes to showings, but also most importantly to inspections, it is not it is not typically advisable for your client, your sellers, to be present during inspections, and it is very normal for the buyers to be present during the inspection, at the very least during the kind of the wrap up, where the inspector's already done the whole inspection. You know, an inspection might last, depending on the size of the house, 2 to 4 hours, right? But at the end, it's about 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, where the buyer comes in, walks around with the inspector. The inspector says, "Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this." You know, maybe this is what an arc fault circuit interrupter is. This is what a ground fault circuit interrupter is. Kind of shows them how to use their house, but also points out some flaws in it, right? And has that conversation face to face with them. Yes, they get a report. Yes, they can read the report, but there's no substitution. Just like in networking, there's no substitution for being face to face, looking at the problem, understanding the problem more than you can from a picture.
And hey, as a seller, a lot of times that you would want them to be there to see it, because on paper it might sound like something big and scary, but when you see it in person, you're like, oh, that looks like something I can DIY and fix. It's
That's
not
right.
going to be an issue.
And a good inspector will say something to the effect of, "Hey, there's some cracks in your brick. These are really small, normal cracks."
Right. But he's
Right.
not going to put their really small normal cracks in the report.
That's right. Or, "Hey, this surge protector thing that's built in caught on fire at some point and melted. The picture looks awful, right? But it's really not that big of a deal. Number one, it's not a necessary part.
Yeah.
Number two, they just take it off.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not that big of a deal. But the picture, you're looking at that going, oh my God, I can't believe the house didn't burn down."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What's going to stop it from burning down in the day after I buy it?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you want that that buyer to be able to walk through. And as the seller, it's not your inspection. It is your home, right? And if you just absolutely must be there, that's fine. But stay out of the way, please.
Try not to be there.
Try,
Like,
that's the
pro,
easiest
that's
thing.
the pro tip. Just try not to be there. Don't
That's
be
right.
there. Is the pro tip.
That's the best scenario. Inspectors, if they are licensed in the state of Tennessee, go through the same vetting process that real estate agents do. They are licensed. The good ones have access to central locks, just like I do. So I mean, it's, you know, they are vetted. They're essentially to some extent an agent for that buyer also, right? Just about a specific topic. And here's the other thing I'll tell you: the buyer's agent frequently doesn't go to the home inspection. You know, I don't go to very many anymore. And the reason for that is, the reality is, I don't have anything to contribute to that. It's not my area of expertise. You know, I will show up if my buyer wants me to, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I find it hard sometimes to bite my tongue because I do a lot of DIY stuff. I do a lot of home maintenance stuff. I know what I'm doing with a lot of it, but that buyer might not. So I want them to hear it from somebody. And not only that, but I have a vested interest in that house closing.
Right.
And even if I'm being completely unbiased, I don't want the buyer to feel pressure by my presence or a comment that I make that makes them feel like they need to go ahead for my sake.
Right.
Right. I don't even want that to be possible.
Yeah.
So I wait, I get the report, we look it over, we talk it over. I ask them, you know, what did the inspector say about this? If they ask me about getting it repaired, I'll tell them, yeah, I've got a guy that can do that. It's not me, by the way. Right. It's not what I'm licensed to do, even if I know how to do it. And we do it that way. So I'm not always present for those home inspections. In fact, now I'm generally not.
And with those reasons to not be there, it makes absolute sense why you wouldn't be there. And your buyers probably appreciate that to a large extent.
And my home inspector, I trust him implicitly.
Yeah.
So my inspector is awesome. And
I need to get his name.
yeah, I will be happy to. Well, I'll just tell you, his name's Jim Edwards, Preferred Home Inspection Service. And Jim's incredible. He knows what he's doing. He's smart. He's observant. And he is realistic with somebody. Hey, you're going to need to get a plumber to come out here. It's probably going to be a service call, right? Because it's a loose wax ring or whatever, right? Or, you need to have this inspected a little bit more, right? Or whatever. But he's not the guy. Golly, I've had so many inspectors over the years that they'll write in the report that they stuck their head into the attic and looked around, but you still need to get somebody qualified to evaluate the roof. Or they've observed that there is an HVAC unit there, but you need to get an HVAC company to come look at it. They didn't even do a Delta test on it, or whatever. And I'm like, what are we paying you for?
Yeah, Right. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great pro tip. Good advice. Let's wrap this show up with something that we all need, and that's a shiny penny.
Yeah. You have a shiny penny?
I do.
Okay, good.
I'd love it if I could say my shiny pennies from the trenches of the real estate world, but it's not. It is related to Murfreesboro, though, and it's on a national level.
Yes. Oh, I forgot what it was. Yep.
So, I haven't watched American Idol in a decade. You know, like it's been a long time since I've watched American Idol.
But
I'm going to tune in on Monday. I'm going to watch Jordan McCullough from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Oakland High School Patriot.
Go OHS.
Who is
got a son there right now.
In the top five in the nation, you know, for American Idol. And if he moves on to the top 3, we get to have a parade in Murfreesboro. We get to have a concert right here down on the square from Jordan McCullough, who is, I haven't watched, so I don't know, but supposedly an incredible singer. And I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I don't care if he's not incredible. If he's in the top 5, by God, Murfreesboro, go vote for him.
Yeah,
he's ours.
Let's vote this guy up. And I will say too, there are we've got a history in Murfreesboro. Colton Dixon was on American Idol and made it very far into the show. The country guy that won what's the country show? Chris Young, he won
MTSU grad.
Yeah, he won that won that show, not The Voice, but it was the country music version of American Idol.
Forgot what it was called.
Yeah. So we've had some success.
Nashville Star.
Thank you. It's time for us to win one of these things.
Let's go.
So let's help all Jordan McCullough out and vote him up there to the top 3 and then on to the championship.
That's on Monday, correct?
Yeah, Monday. And so after the show or during the show, you can call in and vote, and those votes matter. So
let's do it.
Go support Jordan McCullough.
Let's do it. Okay. I have a bingo card.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. Monday night, about 3:00 in the morning, I had a 70-foot tall tree fall on the house that I'm living in.
Oh no.
Yeah. Sounded like the house exploded.
Everybody's okay.
Everybody's okay.
I would know it if they weren't by now.
Yeah. It missed our gas line where the gas comes up out and has the meter. Missed it by about 1.5 feet.
Wow.
Missed one of my son's bedrooms windows that he was sleeping next to. About the distance between me and you. The tree hit the ground.
Wow.
About this far through a window. Went across the dormer and up the roof, and it looked like an entire tree was sticking out past the roof. Like it was a big tree. And so I'm gonna give a shout out to my guy Justin Steidinger, owns Stump Eater, and I called him about 7:00 Tuesday morning, and he was like, "Hello," and I was like, "Have you been up?" And he was like, "I'm up, but I'm not working yet." And I'm like, "Okay, we'll get some coffee. I need you over here." And so by 8:00, he was there assessing. By 9:00, his crew was there working. By 10:30, this 70-foot tree that he guesstimated about 13,000 pounds was loaded in his truck, and they were leaving. So my guy Stump Eater, they're the real deal.
Fantastic that everybody's okay. Trees are no joke.
Yep, it was exciting.
Man, I bet it was. I'll say Monday night, Eric and I were laying in bed, and it was probably 3 a.m. or so. We heard thunder that literally shook the house, and it kept rumbling for what seemed like 2 minutes, but it was probably like 30 or 45 seconds. That thunder just kept on rumbling.
You probably heard the tree hit my house. It was loud enough that you should have heard it.
It was. I've never in my life heard thunder like that, where you hear thunder that rolls for a while.
I love that song, by the way.
You hear thunder that's a clap and it's like, and it's over. This was that, but with like a deep bass, and then it just rumbled for 30, 45 seconds. It was Mondays that, and then I looked at the radar and I was like, well, we're going to be in this for about 3 hours. Because it was all red and yellow from Murfreesboro all the way back to Jackson.
But it rolled out in like 45 minutes.
It rolled through quick.
Yeah. And I think that's why it was so violent.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts, y'all. And it was so spotty. So that house, it's one of my rental houses that we're living in while we're remodeling the other house. So why not? Let's
where are you going to
go
live
ahead and
now?
queue up the next project. Yeah. Well, the house is still habitable. It's fine.
Okay.
But hey, also shout out to whoever built that house in 1920. Y'all built a hell of a house because the way that it's built, it's real 2x4s, right? Like actually 2x4. But then it's got diagonal pieces of wood that are actually 1 inch thick this way, and then it's got wood siding this way. And if that had been a plywood and vinyl house, that tree would have come on through.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
it was crazy, y'all.
Wow,
crazy. Didn't have that on the bingo card. Even my son said that, and I'm like, oh, we're going to be using that on Thursday.
Bonus pro tip: think about that when you go look at new construction. Just saying.
Yeah, for sure. Don't forget to vote. When is regular voting?
You can early vote today till probably 5 p.m. I would imagine, 6 p.m. So you can early vote today if you haven't yet, and then May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, Tuesday. Go vote. Then I'll have a margarita.
Yeah, or have a couple margaritas before you go vote.
Or a cerveza.
Yeah, whatever.
El Cedro.
Hey, by the way, so speaking of beer, let's talk about Cedar Glade real quick. We are having Cinco de Mayo on Tuesday, May the 5th. Ozzy's going to be doing a fun playlist, and we've got Samson's Kitchen. It's a new food truck to us. They're doing Cajun tacos. It's going to be amazing. And I've looked at their menu and their pictures, and if the food tastes anywhere close to as good as it looks, y'all are in for a treat. It's going to be fantastic.
Fantastic.
And then what I'm really excited about, and I'm about to boost this event on our social media, is we're doing a traditional Kolsch service brunch on May 17th. It's Sunday, May 17th from 10 to 1. You don't have to register or buy tickets early. Silver Spoon Catering is doing a breakfast brunch buffet. You'll pay at the door for that. But a Kolsch service, if you're not familiar with that, a Kolsch is a very light, traditional German beer. We serve it in small glasses, but it just keeps coming. And we bring it to you. You don't have to stand in line. And they're 7-ounce glasses. We mark on your coaster how many you have, and you turn it in. They're like $3 a piece. But they serve them small because it keeps it cold. It keeps the foam, which keeps it effervescent. And it's something else. We've never done it. I've never actually attended one. I've studied it and I've seen it, but I've never attended one. But it's gonna be a blast.
Cannot wait. It's gonna be awesome. Cool beans. That's the show.
That's the show. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to another episode of This Week in Real Estate with Jonathan Harmon and Bryan Nale, your go-to resource for all things real estate in Middle Tennessee. Be sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. We will see y'all on the next one.
Now for the nitty-gritty. Primis Mortgage Company is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS number 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender.
Now for the nitty-gritty, Primis Mortgage Company. Primis Mortgage is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender. Now for the nitty-gritty, Primis Mortgage Company. Primis Mortgage is a subsidiary of Primis Bank, a member FDIC. Primis Mortgage NMLS 1894879, BK number 1042893, ML number 1894879, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org. As always, all loans are subject to credit approval and product guidelines. Equal housing lender. Now for the nitty-gritty, Primis Mortgage Company. Primis Mortgage